Most people think addiction starts with a substance, but it doesn't. Addiction begins long before drugs and alcohol. They are the place we focus because that's the part where we see the addiction. We see when somebody's addicted to drugs or alcohol because their life starts to fall apart. This starts to become obvious. But actually, it started long before that in a place that nobody looks or nobody can see. When we learned our internal world wasn't safe, was difficult. When we were too much, we were told we were too much. Then we learned internal ways of coping. And later, addiction becomes the visible tip of the iceberg. So it is a childhood adaptation. And for all those years between childhood and whenever it started, something else has been playing out. It's always a reflection of unmet needs. Addiction is trying to do something for us. It's never random. It's always like an emotional suppression or a coping mechanism that's going on. It's never by accident. So let's trace the path back in this video. And the truth is there's no one answer to this, as I've talked about earlier. But for sure, it starts in childhood. Many people say I meet people, they say it started when I was 27. It started when I was 30, but it just doesn't start there. We just don't see the path back to that original wounding that happened. So something happened in our early childhood. Now, I'm not saying we have to go back to our early childhood and fix that, because we can't fix the past. It is part of us now. It is within us. But when we experience the difficult things that everybody knows about as trauma, like violence, rape, abuse, loss, tragedy, illness, all those things, then we kind of can understand trauma, But trauma is so much more than that. It's so much small things. It is really that children need nurturing and love in the same volume that they need air and water. Well, that's a lot, right? And most of us never got that to some extent. This is not about blaming parents. It's never about blaming parents. It's just a pointless place to look. It's really about seeing what happened to us. What did we have to adapt to in our early life? What was it that we had to hold inside ourselves? What was it that we couldn't be ourselves? What was it that we were not free to express? What was there in there? Because that just continues and stays with us our whole life. And even though you can't see it, that's really what's going on. So that's really a loss of our core needs. We all have core needs of being valued, being loved, being important. They're core needs in that they're needed for healthy psychological development. And when we live in an environment, perhaps there was too many siblings, perhaps there was no money, there's an endless list of reasons here. This is not to find the reason. You might find yourself in some of the things that I've said, but there will be something, where our core needs didn't get met, and then our development halted, and then some form of adaptation happened, and then this intelligent response learned to play out in our life. It's never by accident. I've never once had a case in 30 years of this work where it's by accident. Emotional suppression is another thing really that goes on as a result of those experiences. When we live in an adapted environment or have an experience of ourselves that is not allowed, there's an emotional suppression. Like if you were never allowed to feel, if you were never taught to feel, if it was not okay to be you, then you probably learned not to show your feelings. Feelings don't go away because you don't show them. You don't not have them. And most people, when I ask them, when they come to this work, will say, I don't know. When I ask them, where are your feelings? I don't know. I just think. Everything is in thinking. If you're an overthinker, the thinking is a way of avoiding the body. All of us have an experience of the body. Emotions, feelings, sensations are happening all the time. If you don't, it's because it's suppressed. It's never nothing. I always say nothing is not nothing. There is an experience going on in the body. If you can't feel it, it's because you suppressed it or learned to escape from it. Tension is held in the jaw, in the forehead, in the shoulders, in the body, like something. By held, I don't mean it's there, fixed there. I mean that we experience it there in the present moment of adversity when it shows up in our adult life. So that is really highlighting where addiction begins. It's not a full and final thing in this video because I can't do that, but it is giving you an idea on how to trace it back and how to see. But don't get caught up in looking for the cause, because finding the cause will not bring you any closer to a solution. I talk about this because it's important for people to know and understand and have something that makes sense for them. It's not because finding the cause will bring you any closer to the solution. And actually, it's one of the most common questions. Why? Why do I have this? Because the mind is a binary and linear computer, and it tends to think that if I could just find the cause of this, then I would be okay. That's not true. It's never going to happen.